Hi, I'm Andi Simon. I'm your host and your guide for On the Brink with Andi Simon. Remember, my job is to help you see, feel, and think in new ways so you can change and get off the brink and soar. And so I go looking for people who I think can help you see things through that fresh lens. Because what matters in today's fast changing world is that you have enough information to begin to see what's going on beyond your own industry, the things that you're close to, the ideas that you're familiar with. It's a time of such fast moving change that we don't quite know what to do to change. And so I have with me today a wonderful woman who I've met through the Women's Business Collaborative, and Johanna Zeilstra, we call her Jose, has a wonderful story to tell you about herself, but also about this new program that she has called Gender Fair, which is extremely important for you to know. But some of the other things that she's done in terms of giving for corporations, but just her whole purpose and philosophy are really shareable. And I'd like to do that really well today. So let me tell you a little bit about Jose. She's an established business strategist and an accomplished leader for both startups and global companies. Over the past 20 years, she's worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers and JP Morgan Chase, and with over a dozen clients of all kinds, from Disney and Lucent, Bank of America. I mean, her history is really interesting, and I'm anxious for her to tell you about it. Her career has led her to work in Canada and China, Indonesia, France, and the Netherlands, and she's from the Netherlands. She acts as a coach to senior executives and boards and top teams, and has a passion for supporting and advancing professional women that I share with her. You know, our purpose is to help women become the best they can be. And I have a hunch she knows the same feelings I do when I coach a woman who's reached a certain level and is stuck or stalled, bored, isn't quite feeling like this is all there is. So there's something interesting going on for women in particular. She currently runs something called Gender Fair, a wonderful, wonderful platform that uses data analytics to determine an organization's progress toward gender equality and diversity. And this is important because we talk about it, but what is it and how far have we gone? And just because we preach it, are we actually doing it? Before this, she co-founded Give Back, an innovative platform that makes it easy for companies to build authentic and impactful cause marketing, workplace giving, and other social responsibility initiatives. And Give Back was launched on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2011. I hope she tells us a little bit about what that was like, and was subsequently acquired by one of the nation's largest benefits administrators. I think you're going to enjoy every minute of today's podcast, as I am, because I've spoken to Jose for Catalytic Conversations for the WBC. She's a vice chair, as I am, and she is also very involved in the chair committee and in the leadership committee. So Jose, thank you for being with me.
Well, thank you for having me, Andi.
So now that I've read your resume, tell us really, who is Jose? What is your journey like? And how have we gotten to where we are? Because clearly you have purpose and passion, and it's turning into great things for other people as well. Help us.
Well, you covered a lot of my professional life, my career, and really, you know, what's behind that is you know, I kind of fell into my career. I was born in the Netherlands, as you mentioned, and immigrated to Canada when I was a teen, and was educated there. And really thought, you know, after my MBA, I thought, you know, there's only one place I really wanted to go, and that was one visit, one summer, and that was New York City. And I was so fortunate to start working there, you know, early on in my career. But as soon as I landed in New York with Price Waterhouse, as you mentioned, they sent me to China for 2 years. And, you know, and as much as I wanted to stay in New York, I thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity. I wanted to experience a different culture, a different language, different people. And it was a really good opportunity just to lead, you know, a team there in China and do some really interesting work. And so I spent a couple of years in China and Indonesia before coming back to the States, and continued my career leading bigger and bigger projects. Some were more interesting than others, and more interesting industries. I really enjoyed, you know, working in the airline industry, more so than financial services. But it was you know, every year you kind of progress on the career ladder. and with an increase in pay, and before too long, after 5-6 years, they were partner. They had me on the partner track, so I got to meet more partners and do more networking and showcase some of the work that I'd done. And then it was around the 8-year mark when I got a call from a headhunter and said, we've got this great opportunity we'd love for you to interview for. And so I did. I thought, you know what, I was kind of at the point where I had been traveling, 80% of the time. And at the time, I wanted to be in New York City. I didn't want to be in Atlanta or North Carolina or any of these other places. So I thought, you know what, it's time to just see what else is out there. And sure enough, after many interviews, I got the job offer. And it was to, again, in strategy, but also helping executives implement their strategy through change management, executive coaching, and leadership development. And when I got this offer, I nearly fell off my chair because it was 3 times the salary I was making. And I didn't have to travel only 20% of the time. And I was like, 3 times? I cannot believe someone thinks I'm worth this much, right? I really, really was astounded. This is, but and then 2000, I think. And then, so I went to my boss, and I said, listen, I got this opportunity. I hate to turn it down. This is amazing. And he looks at it and he says, oh, we can match that. And I remember thinking, what do you mean you can match that? This is 3 times of what you've been paying me. And here you've been promoting me and you're putting me on partner track. And now you're saying you could easily make this happen for me here. And then I thought, you know what? It's kind of shame on me because I really didn't know my value. And 2, I thought, you know what? If companies really care about their employees, they should really pay them well. And I was a little bit ignorant and naive, to think that was actually the case. So, I took the new job and loved working in financial services. Although, again, when you start progressing in the career, you see fewer and fewer women. So, part of my job was to really, get more diversity, into the senior ranks, but it was extremely slow moving. And what was frustrating is that there were so many, training programs and leadership development for women, but you just didn't see the needle move. And I kept thinking, like, they're working harder, they're training, they're getting mentoring. What is the problem here? And they're performing. And I thought, there's got to be something more. There's not, I think, enough pressure to really get more women at the time, into the senior leadership roles. So, when I did leave, I did, want to try something new. And I had this opportunity to work with Oprah. And I thought, well, this is going to be exciting, and because I've watched her over the years. And of course, I think she's just a big proponent for women and girls, especially women and girls of color. And I thought, I'm going to help do something, to give back and to do, to build an authentic workplace giving program. So that's what I did in 5 years. And that was very, very exciting to be on her show and to get.
Now, did Oprah recruit you, or did you have the concept? I'm curious about the aha. I mean, we both had interesting careers. I made it the EVP of a bank. It was a very glass ceiling place. I rubbed my head against the top, and then I looked for things that were more fun. It sounds like you found more fun.
It was more fun. I was at a time, I think we had just announced another merger. So instead of doing just your job, you were adding another job. And I was pregnant with my second son. It was really at a time also in my life where I was getting a little burnt out and I wasn't having fun anymore.
Yes.
I just wasn't enjoying my day-to-day life. And it was really the commute and everything else. And I thought, so I had a connection there. And, of someone who knew her well and said, this is something that we want to build with her. And I just thought, well, you know what, this is great. It gets my feet wet in the entrepreneurial space. I don't have to worry about funding necessarily, or the marketing budget. I think aligning with her and I can always go back to corporate America. Once you get out there and get the bug and have, more freedom and flexibility, I just looked for, after doing Give Back, look for other opportunities to in line with my passion and my lifestyle.
It's always interesting to me because I too had a career, first as an academic for a decade. And then once I got tenure, I said, I'm going to do this forever. And I actually met city bankers who said, come and help me change. So I went as a consultant by chance, and then I made a career for a while. And when I went into my own business, I said, that was really good training and perspective. And I really understand it, but I really want to do it. And it's different. And when you become an entrepreneur, it's hard, but it's easy. I mean, there's something very invigorating. And I never mind 7-day week works. And then I take vacations, but it's on my terms and it's with purpose. And it sounds like that's what you found. So when you sold it, I'm assuming the next stage in your life was something. Did this whole gender fair come out of an idea? Because I love what you're doing with it. So needed. But what exactly, how did this all develop?
A few years after we sold Give Back, where I got into gender fair. So I started working and doing executive coaching with women because I wanted to keep my feet like you in the corporate world. So I had a number of clients, and one of them, was working for, a large Fortune 500 company. And during this coaching period, she was so excited to tell me that, she got this new role, this big promotion. And so we talked about it. And she said she went from a regional director to a global director. Her, her staff increased, of course, travel, budget, everything increased. But she wasn't as excited as I thought she would be. So, I was kind of saying, well, what's wrong? Like, I know this is what you wanted. She goes, it is what I wanted. I'm thrilled to be in this new role, but my pay never changed.
Oh.
So again, I thought to myself, well, what is it? You finally, promoting women, you give them the leadership opportunity, but it's not being followed or matched the pay that really requires. And I remember thinking there's got to be something that is, holding these companies back, or women are not asking, for the check. So, I continued to do coaching, and then because of the work I was doing with Oprah, I got to learn a lot about issues affecting women in this country. So I started a nonprofit called the Women's Debate, which was looking at all the issues. What are all the issues women face that men don't face?
Yes.
And it had to do everything from, economic opportunities, whether it's, pay or position, power, all the things we talk about WBC, and also healthcare. Of course, there's unique healthcare issues that women have that men don't have. And lastly is violence against women. And that's just not, it's in the home, it's on campus, it's in sexual harassment in the corporation, it's online. These are the things that, that are uniquely, affect women. So I thought to myself, what? Presidential debates are coming up. Why not have a debate just on issues affecting women? We are more than half the population. We tend to vote more than men. Why not, have these candidates either debate, have a town hall, or answer some of these questions? Because we curated questions across the country. What kind of questions they would give the moderators, and we gave it to the moderators. And one side wanted to do this, the other side didn't. So we didn't get to where we wanted to, but it's still something that gave me a real insight into not just, my perspective or worldview, because that's, different from a lot of other women. It's not like we have just, we come from the same, viewpoint, right? So and I learned what, even though in my corporate career, I had great maternity benefits, well, that did not translate in save company for my executive assistant, right? I had 4 months and she had 2 weeks, so it's not like we're all, in the same, have the same issues. So, so that gave me the idea of, if leadership training in the company is not working, if women are not getting paid what they deserve, if all these issues around sexual harassment and other other economic opportunities are not being fairly provided to or are they still issues in the workplace, why not look at this from a consumer perspective, because women still own that power, right?
Yes.
Women still make 85% of the purchasing decisions, and if we can't do it inside the company, then perhaps we can do it from our consumer buying behavior. So that's where gender fair, is one way that we can provide the market pressures for companies when they will say, oh, we actually have to address this. Because diversity, inclusion, and and gender issues have been more like vitamins to companies. It's a nice thing to do, but it's not something that is a top priority for them, even if they say that. But I think if they see a shift in demand for products that are not gender fair towards products that are gender fair, then perhaps that's a wake-up call saying, you know what, we better do something about this, quicker, because our competitors are taking, some of the market share away from us.
So as I'm listening to you, three things go through my head. And I don't want to jump over them. First, I want you to explain to the audience that's listening or watching, what does gender fair actually do? And what does it enable a consumer to know so they can buy more gender wisely? And that's a branding movement that gives people real tools and power if they know about it and they can use it. So, what is it and how do you do it? And the second question that lingers for me is, why are women so abused? And you can take them in either order, because I have yet to figure out why we're so vital and vibrant, and yet it's easy for them to give your assistant 2 weeks and you 4 weeks and think that's perfectly fine. And I've actually listened recently to guys, CEOs of mid-market companies, talking about how hard it was to do diversity. First, we have to recruit them, and then they don't stay. And it was all their fault. And as I listened, I went, oh, we're not moving the needle at all. It's their fault. And I even heard the head of HubSpot say, well, when we founded the company with 10 guys, there were 10 white guys, came out of MIT. And every time we tried to recruit people who didn't match us, they didn't feel comfortable and didn't want to stay. And it was sort of their fault. It's all so interesting. But first, gender fair. Let's tell everybody about what it is and how to use it. So as we build the listeners, they can say, I want to buy from gender fair companies. I think that's a promise. Am I right?
Yes. So Gender Fair was founded by a woman who was an investigative journalist. And she noticed that a lot of the publicly traded companies, like the Fortune 500, were signing up to what's called the UN Women's Empowerment Principles. Yes. And we see a lot of that happening even today, where companies make commitments or pledges or sign up to this and sign up to that. So it was interesting to her, saying, oh, well, these companies really, signed up, they made that public commitment. Now, who's tracking them? And what are the metrics? Because these were just principles, like, we need better balance in our leadership teams. We need to, pay women equitably, give them a safe work environment. Well, so how do you actually measure that? So she created a team of experts in the gender space to come up with these 18 metrics. And there's 5 pillars. There's leadership. So we look at leadership numbers on the board, as well as in the executive and senior management, and women of color, as well as women in general. We look at leadership development, like sponsorship and mentoring. We look at employee policies. So one of the things that came out of a recent survey is that women care, and men too, care about fair working benefits. They care that there's no sexual harassment. They care about equal pay. They care about paid maternity and paternity leave, and they care about flexibility in a and any kind of health and wellness, which has become much more important in the last year or so. So people care about this. And then the third pillar is advertising. are the images that you project, whether it's on ads, whether it's on your website and any communication, are they inclusive? Are they, one of the conversations I had recently with General Motors, and I said, I'm so appreciative because I remember the days when women were on top of cars, not driving cars, right? In their commercials.
Ta-da!
Right. That was so typical back then.
In bathing suits.
Exactly, right? So there's a lot of, improvement that's been made. Look at General Motors and where they are. They have, they've done their pay equity analysis, and they publicize all their workforce. They have great female leaders, including the CEO. So they've made so many improvements, and on the advertising, obviously, as well. And then the next pillar is diversity reporting. And one of the things that we felt, especially in the last year, that it's really important for companies to not only track, but also to report and publicly disclose their workforce numbers and their composition. So, what is the percentage of women, but also intersectional data? What is the percentage of people of color? Age, maybe disability. So, and you're going to see this more and more. And this is what we talked about last week, even, that very few companies actually disclose that publicly.
Yes.
They do track it. They have to report some of this to the EEOC, but they don't, there's a lot of fear in terms of that out there in the public.
Yes.
Whereas other companies are doing it. We see that from IBM to Walmart. And Walmart has made significant strides the last 5 years. And even if their numbers aren't stellar, when it comes to diversity, just to put it out there, I think people appreciate, employees appreciate it, consumers, investors, people appreciate it. And I think there's going to be more and more pressure for companies to do that. Maybe it's not going to be mandated. None of this is ever mandated, but I think peer pressure, and pressure from consumers, employees, and investors will get more and more companies to do that. And I think it's creating more authenticity as well. And even if, like I said, if the numbers aren't good, but you said we're trying, and this is where we are, you can engage, your stakeholders to participate and help, do better. So I think it's something that we look for. We give points and credit for companies that disclose. And the last area we look at is corporate, social responsibility or social impact. Do they invest in, women-owned businesses? How good is their supply chain and things like that? So that, do they provide training, STEM education? What are they doing to advance in their communities of women and girls? So we add up, the scores. It's a 100-point scale. And if you're 70 or higher, you're gender fair. And since we're mostly consumer-facing platform, we put this on an app so that consumers can just scan a logo, whether it's a hotel logo or airline logo or logo of a shoe company or a cereal or soap, and it'll tell you, of 2,500 brands, which is all the publicly traded brands, if it's gender fair, and give you the exact score along these lines, these 5 pillars. And if it's not gender fair, it automatically refers you to a gender fair brand in the same category. So really, consumers have no excuse anymore. Obviously we don't have private labels yet. We're working on a private tool right now so that private labels can get onto the app if they're gender fair. But right now it's all the publicly traded companies that are consumer facing.
2 things come through being an anthropologist. You're concretizing an abstraction and its value. And I do think that in our society, I have a friend who's working on sustainability indicators at the UN. And to your point, unless you can concretize, not just we believe in it, but we're actually doing it in a fashion that's meaningful, it's an abstraction. It's symbolic, but not necessarily actionable or easily actionable. And then the other part from the work that we do is people don't know how to do it. And they don't really understand the nuances of it. They don't understand how to change a culture so that it's living it, not just preaching it. And having been an executive in banks with mostly men, the conversations are all amongst them while you sit and watch. I mean, it is an interesting place to be diverse, inclusive. What does that mean? And how does it actually feel? And why is that important? So you're on the brink. The podcast is on the brink because we're on the brink of something transformational, but not necessarily easy to achieve. One of the women who spoke and is a member of WBC, Jamie Candy, she's the CEO of Edmentum, a company in Minneapolis, and I know her quite well. She had a chapter in my book. And Jamie realized after the George Floyd incident that she had not focused on the kind of diversity, inclusion, equity that was important, and she's in the education field. And I did a panel with her 2 months ago, and she said, look at what we've done. We have 600 employees, and we have gone full court press to make sure that we are actually living what we're preaching, and how that changes everything. The conversations, what men think of women, how women respond to men, how people of color interact in different ways, and what kind of folks can thrive in this and what kind cannot. And it's down to culture. And humans are these symbolic, sensing creatures who want to be in a place that's safe for them with others. That affinity bias takes over. It is not, what you're doing is the start of a major transformation, a little like WBC is, that's well beyond any one thing, but it's a multiplier. So it's really cool. Do you have any thoughts about why this is so hard?
Why diversity is hard?
Well, living it. I mean, you think about what you just said, gender fair. I mean, if we could be more fair to gender, we could really raise our consumer quotient and be a better, purposeful, as Joey Ryman said, company. Is this that hard? And I have my own point of view, having worked with companies, coached people, lived it. It's, why are women sort of on the bottom here, no matter how hard we teach them, train them, STEM them, or anything else? Getting through is just a long haul. Thoughts? Maybe you can give us some insights that we can all do.
Well, it's hard for companies because, there's two things. What's not hard for companies is to put women on the board, to expand the board and put, a woman of color or a person of color on the board. That's not hard. The other thing that's not hard is to change your website, your face,
Yes.
We saw after George Floyd, all of a sudden the websites went from all white to very diverse websites.
Yes.
That's not hard. What's not hard is the advertising, is to put a great empowering ad out there. You see it, in every football game, or, the ads, that's not easy. What's also not hard is to donate money.
Yes.
To causes that affect, people of color, women. Those are the easy things. And all companies do. What's not hard is to make a statement.
Yes.
What is hard is to really go in and mentor women, develop women, promote women, and put them in those leadership roles. And that's going to take time. And that's where companies are, struggle with. And, because that's where the rubber hits the road and where it really becomes hard.
I remember when I was in the bank, I was an executive, I'd go to a board meeting, 49 men, a nun, and me. And I was going to put that line in my book, and the proofreader said, that sounds like a joke. I said, no, it was real. She said, well, we can't put that in. I said, okay, don't put it in. It's okay, but it's real. And I didn't say a whole lot at those meetings. I appeared. And what worries me is about putting on an expanded board a woman of color is, can they hear them? Do they know what to say and how to engage? Do they engage them? Do they even know why they're there? Other than to be a token? And that's not going to do what's intended, which is to change the conversation and the organization. Tough.
Or it's the same few women that join many boards. So it's not like you're expanding the number of women joining boards. You see kind of the same rock star women, but you're not increasing necessarily the number of women joining boards. You're more, they're just increasing the number of boards that they sit on, right? So
this is an on the brink time. And And I do think Women's Business Collaborative has been a real catalyst for trying to move that needle, but also to make it legitimate for us to talk about this and to build better gender fairness in a way that people can actually embrace it. You know, you're giving consumers a methodology for saying that doesn't work. No, thank you. And we need to do things differently. I often think that humans, though, are like rubber bands. If you let go, it'll go right back to the habits of yesterday. I've watched it in too many companies. Now, I specialize in helping organizations change. First, they don't want to, then they have to, and they hate you along the way. And then when they finally get there, they forget the process of getting there. But they would just soon go back to never having. The mind doesn't want to change. So, which takes us always to early education and how do we get boys and girls to talk to each other when they're kids, play together, do things differently, right? So
right. I hope gender fair becomes the next, you know, the fair trade for women, or the organic, where women see that and say, you know what, I'm only going to shop organic because I want to, you know, I want that's in line with my lifestyle, or I'm only going to shop fair trade because I really care about the supply chain. Yeah. So it's in the same way, you know, we have to look at, you know, gender fair as a, you know, as another filter for us. And I think the young people are more inclined to do so, and you know, and put a stake in the ground.
I do too. And they're going to actually create a whole new sandbox. It's not even thinking out of the box. It's a new box in which we are happily living if we can only see things through a fresh lens. This has been such fun. 2 or 3 things you want our listeners to remember, other than to check gender fair when they go shopping?
Absolutely. Download the app and check gender fair. And, you know, and then, you know, if your brand is not on there, your favorite brand, please let us know, and we'll do our best to assess against the gender fair standard. And, you know, keep doing what you were doing. I think it's important for everyone to support, you know, women of color, people of color, to you know, do what we can to you know, get them, you know, a leg up, because, you know, for too long we you know, there was always the discrimination that happened inside a company, and we all have to have a voice, and we all have to help each other, you know, get to where we need to be. So
it's interesting as I'm listening. That's great. Before I finish my thoughts, where can they reach you if they'd like to know more about this or participate in some fashion? Your contact stuff, we'll put it up on our blog, but where should they get you?
Well, my email is j.zeilstra, Zeilstra @genderfair.com. So please email me, and I will be very responsive to any of your. Appreciate the audience.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? It's fun to share, particularly like this. I feel like we're doing television again. We can't see our audience, but we know they're there. And they can't applaud yet, but I know they do. And they send me lots of emails. But it's an interesting time. I use the metaphor often when I work with organizations to change them. And this is often a topic. It's like a play. You've all been playing Macbeth, and you know it really well. You know where to stand on stage. You know how to talk to each other. You know what roles you should be playing as men and women. And tomorrow, we're not going to play that anymore. But you haven't written the script. You have no idea how to rehearse it. You can't stand on stage. Nobody knows how to direct you, and there's no applause. And yet we want you to perform differently and be more gender fair. And that's not easy. But we do it all the time when we put Robert Redford in different roles, and so can you. So this isn't that hard. You just have to do it. And then once you start, you go, I can do this. And next thing you know, you get the applause, and it's fun. So it's been just fun talking to you. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much.
Let me wrap up with our listeners. Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. And as you know, I love to hear from you. info@andisimon.com. Remember, my new book, Rethink, Smashing the Myths of Women in Business, is there for you in many flavors. And we love you to send us your comments and your thoughts important about how can you rethink the place of women, smash those myths. At Gender Fair, we're all together trying to multiply this in so many different ways, because more of the same is not going to work. And we all want to build a better society in which we can smash those old myths and find new ones. So it's been such fun. Thank you, Jose. It's been terrific. Let me say goodbye to everybody, and come again often. Bye.